funeral.
The death of an era.
We didn't plan that.
Hey, Sherry.
I've been in tears.
All right. Is there a reason why we've got those up here? Is there a reason why we have these up here?
No, that's probably if somebody's speaking. We don't need those.
Okay. Okay. Can we turn them off or mute them? Hmm? Okay. All right. You ready?
Yes, sir.
Oh, let me get my thing open. The special session for the Madison County Board of Education for Monday, July 1st, 2019 is called into session. Ms. Stowe, would you mind leading us in the invocation this evening?
Most gracious Heavenly Father, we just thank you for the opportunity to be here today. We thank you for all of those who serve in our school system, who make great sacrifices every day for the betterment of our children. And we ask that as we go through this meeting tonight, as always, that you would guide us with your wisdom as we make decisions that impact each and every one of our employees and our students. For we ask these things in the precious and holy name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
I recommend approval of the agenda for July 1, 2019.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the recommendation of approval for the agenda dated July 1st, 2019. Any discussion? If there's no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
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 All right. Item 1, recommend the rejection and negotiation of the bid for the New Hope tennis courts.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the recommendation to reject and renegotiate a bid for New Hope tennis courts. Any discussion?
We were expecting what?
We had budgeted $900,000 to do all the tennis courts repair, and it would be new tennis courts at New Hope. We came in under for all of those, but the price on the New Hope, since there's just one bid, and this same company won the bid for the other, since they're coming into town, and I'll be recommending that bid at the next meeting, but if they were unknown if they would win both bids, so they had to bid this one high. So knowing that they'll be in town to do the other bid, if it's accepted by the board, we think we can get a lower price and substantially save tens of thousands off of this in the negotiation with the courts there. So we'd like to renegotiate that and then bring that quote back for you guys to accept if it's at the next meeting or to consider.
What was the anticipated ballpark of that one? What was it?
We were guessing about 300 to 350,000. The other courts to repair, we were guessing about $500,000. So the other bid actually came in at like about 160, way lower than what we thought. And this one came in a good bit higher than what we thought. Together, it's lower than what we anticipated and budgeted for all the courts. So overall, it's a win, which will actually, out of the A&T funds and all that, actually add money back into the general fund for there.
Okay.
Any additional discussion?
Was there did you say you can't use the funds for this? Was that?
So you can't use A&T for new construction of tennis courts, but what we're doing to free up this budget, we're using the A&T funds to cover buying new buses and insurance. And
And then using that money.
that's correct.
Any additional questions? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, I recommend the board approve my resignation letter as attached, effective July, or the close of date on July 14th.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the recommendation to approve Superintendent Massey's resignation letter with an effective date of resignation of July 14th, 2019. Any discussion?
We hope you'll make us proud where you go. We're going to miss you. We appreciate what you've done. I would have never thought that you would have been able to accomplish everything you've accomplished in your 5 years. I was a doubter, sorry. When I got that phone call, I'm going to run. You're what? So, I know you'll do great things there. We wish you well.
Thank you so much for your support, Ms. Stowe. It's, as a mentor and such a community leader, appreciate everything that you've done for our kids and your support in my position here.
Well, I too want to say thank you. I look forward to seeing what you can do in your new role. If you've done nothing else, you've come up with some ideas that were very far out of the box. At times, I was a little worried we'd ever get them close enough to the box to fit, but you definitely have the ability to come up with some ideas that are inventive, and I think that something like cybersecurity is going to be able to use that to your fullest extent. And I think it'll give you an opportunity to help Huntsville and Madison County education grow and give us opportunities we didn't have before. So I appreciate it, and thank you for your service. Not sure anybody will be as much fun to work with, but we're definitely going to give it a good try. So thank you.
Well, thank you. And I had a great team to help me stay inside the box, and they put up with me a good bit. And I don't think you have a better leadership team in the state as far as a district leadership team. And they were so patient with me and helped guide me so much. I really appreciate all you guys here.
Well, I do agree with that. The sign of a great leader is that you can walk out the door and nothing changes. And although many people would argue that, I think that you have put Madison County in a position where, as much as we hate to see you go, I think we'll still remain a very strong county school system, even in your absence, because of the leadership you've put in place. So thank you.
Thank you.
Nathan, Sherry,
Well, Matt, thank you for your leadership. When I got on the board, I heard a couple people tell me, says, watch your superintendent, but I believe you've done well for our students, for our community. I think you'll do well at the Cyber. We're here to support you. We do have a great cast staff here, and as I would second Ms. Bates, that the measure of your quality is the people you surround yourself with. So I'm thankful we have quality staff that can pick up that mantle and keep continuing the growth that we have here. So I appreciate everything that you've done for us.
Thank you, Mr. Carey.
Yeah, and thank you, and I wish you all the best in your new endeavors. I really appreciate how you worked in Montgomery and worked on like the factors, the middle school factors, and recognizing the teachers that got their certifications. So I think you did a lot down there to help the entire state. So.
Appreciate that.
Well, Matt, you've done a tremendous job of leading our schools in Madison County for the last 5 years. You've created and you've developed an outstanding leadership team here in the central office. We've got outstanding leaders in all of our schools. We've got teachers and students that are just doing great things, and it's all due to your leadership, all due to the ideas that you had for our students and for our system. We are going to miss you. We are going to miss having you continuing to lead us. But we are very proud of the fact that one of Madison County's own is going to lead this new initiative in this new school. And on behalf of the Board of Education, I want to wish you and your family all the best of luck. We hope to see you back here at Madison County Schools on a visit. But we will miss you, and we will miss your leadership But we do want to wish you all the best.
Thank you. I'll certainly miss working with you guys and our team. You may have to handle me as an annoying parent now. I'm not sure. I'll still be dropping my kids off in the
Your
morning
time?
maybe and picking up. So we'll still be in the community and be around, but I will certainly miss working with you guys and the team here. It's been an incredible board to work with. I mentioned this in my letter, but there's not a better board to kind of work with. And you go to superintendent conferences, sometimes there's, you can, people tend to complain about what may be kind of not going well and that kind of thing. And sometimes that involves some difficult board members to have to work with. And I get to kind of brag and go, I think I've got the best board to work with. They're incredible. And the way that you allow kind of me to bounce ideas and vision to kind of help get feedback from you, and y'all help mold it into what's appropriate. So I appreciate
You
it.
flip the lid.
Most used emoji with Matt.
That's it.
He must have learned before the rest of us got on the board. Well, congratulations again, Matt, on your appointment, and good luck in your new endeavor, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you.
So, is there anything else? Well, reluctantly, I have to ask for a vote. So all those in favor of approving Matt's resignation, please say aye.
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 Aye. Okay. So, all right. I think on the rest of the agenda, where is it? There you go. Okay, so on the rest of the agenda, we have some other business. Certainly with Matt's departure as a superintendent, we have to look toward appointing an interim superintendent. And then it goes without saying that we need to look at the appointment of a permanent superintendent to fulfill Mr. Massey's term as superintendent of schools here at Madison County. So I'd like to open up to the floor to the board members to discuss on the interim. What we're going to do is we're not going to vote on an interim superintendent tonight. We're going to do that. Mr. Massey will be here for his final meeting as a superintendent will be next Thursday evening on the 11th. And at that time, we will go ahead and vote for the interim superintendent. But before we go into that discussion, Ken, I do have a question. Are we ready to send out the announcement for the position for superintendent and get that ready to go?
That's something I will help you with.
Okay.
There's a certain way you draft that by statute.
Okay.
I'll help you with that.
Okay.
Can you go over that? What are we required to do? What's optional in this situation?
Well, you want to talk about the interim first, and then we can.
Yeah, we can talk about the interim first, and then we can go
Be
to
happy to
that.
answer.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and continue with the interim. I gave each one of you on the board a copy of the duties and responsibilities of the deputy superintendent and the organizational chart. I can't find my own now. There it is. I got it. Okay. Again, we're not going to vote on anything this evening. I think there has been some discussion about the succession. That individual is not here this evening, so I would be hesitant to even make a nomination or bring it up for a vote until he is available to give us his input and his desires. But the deputy superintendent has worked very closely with Mr. Massey over the course of the last 3 or 4 years. And so it kind of is a general transition that he would probably be the likely candidate for that job. But he's not here. He's out on vacation out of the country, and it would be inappropriate for me to assume that he wants that position, and I will wait till he returns, and then I will approach him and discuss it with him personally. But the intent would be for the deputy superintendent, or for a interim superintendent to take on the responsibility. We have, how many days with an interim superintendent?
That's up to 180.
So you have up to 180 days with an interim superintendent. I don't anticipate that. I would anticipate that once we get the announcement out, we will begin the process, and I would say somewhere between 60 and 90 days, we would have a candidate, and we would be able to bring in the replacement for Mr. Massey. But does anybody have any issues with that? Any concerns with that plan moving forward?
I would just say that when we did this before, that the people who were guiding us suggested that the person that we consider for the acting or the interim superintendent be a person who does not plan to apply for the actual position, because that gives them an unfair advantage. So that's something we might want to keep in mind. Isn't that correct, Cindy?
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Any additional discussion on the interim superintendent process? So like I said, we will go ahead and we will work that process, and we will have an interim superintendent appointed after the 11 July meeting, and his or her effective date to take over as the interim would be midnight on the 14th or the 15th of July upon Mr. Massey's resignation date. Any comments? Any additional? Okay. All right, so as far as the appointed superintendent, looking for the person that's going to lead the system for the next 3.5 years to fulfill Mr. Massey's term, there are some unique things, and Ms. Rucker, I'll go ahead and let you ask your question again to Ms. Thompson, our attorney. So
Yeah, if you can just tell us what we have to do and what are optional things that we could do.
Okay, you have to fill the vacancy within 180 days of the effective date of the superintendent's resignation. You are bound by the terms of the superintendent salary resolution and the resolution where you set in play the evaluation and the travel expenses and all those things. So those, as far as the compensation package is concerned, that's predetermined by the structure of the elected superintendency. When the board went through this in 2011, you hired or contracted with AASB, who provides a superintendent search program, and you can pay them, and they will have someone do the advertising and the vacancy announcement, getting the word out of advertising in certain publications, and then the applications go to AASB, and they screen the candidates and bring you back a candidate pool.
That's optional.
That's an option. Several school systems that have had vacancies, I believe, in the recent past, such as Jackson County, I think Huntsville City and Madison City both did it internally this last time when they had vacancies, I think. So you're certainly not required to bring a consultant in. There are other consultants too, I think, that do this type search, other than AASB, if you chose to go that route.
if we were to use AASB, would they be willing to come up and do a presentation to the board to kind of give us an idea of what they do for us and how their process works?
They did that in 2011. I would assume they'd be willing to do that again. I know one of the things, in looking back through my files, I do have their folder. I found this in my file from what they gave all the board members. I only have one copy of it, but I do have that. If anybody wants to look at it, I'll stay after the meeting and you can look at it, or I can have Marcia copy all of it and scan it and send it to you tomorrow to give you an idea of the materials they handed out at that meeting. I also have the minutes that are fairly detailed about the discussion. Sally Howell happened to be in Huntsville 2 days after Dr. Davison announced his retirement, so he announced his retirement on the 1st, I think it was the 1st of November, and then on November the 3rd, she actually was in Huntsville, so she came to a work session of the board and talked about the services that they provide.
For those listening, do you want to just say what AASB is?
Okay, it's the Alabama Association of School Boards.
So what board meeting was that?
November the 3rd of 2011, I can forward you the minutes. Because I've gone and looked and pulled the excerpts out of the things that were applicable to what the board did at that time. Now, not to say that you have to go through a search committee, because you're not required to do it that way. That's just one option. And so then there would be an interview process following the selection of the candidates. And I know that when the board went through this before, there were 5 candidates chosen. I do not know and don't recall and don't have anything in my file that says how many people actually applied. It may be that everybody that applied was sent through to the board for interviews. And then the board set up a series of interviews and interviewed the candidates and came to a decision.
So what are the rules for posting it?
You have to post the notice of the vacancy in a conspicuous place at each school campus and work site at least 30 calendar days before the position is to be filled. And the notice has to have the job description and title, required qualifications, salary range, information on where to submit an application, information on any deadlines for applying, and any other relevant information.
And that's done through you? You're the one that writes?
Well, AASB did it the last
AASB
time.
did it? Okay.
But I mean, I can certainly, I have your vacancy announcement from last time. I can scan that and send it to you as well.
Okay.
Did you say you have to post it at each school?
This says in a conspicuous place at each school campus and work site at least 30 calendar days before the position is to be filled.
Is that our school system or statewide?
And that's your school system. The thing about that is that would, give notice to your internal candidates, but that doesn't help you get the word out to the external candidates.
And that's what AASB would do, get the word out to the external candidates for us.
I found in an article I was reading today that I had in this file, the name of I don't know if it's still in place, but a name of an organization where you can advertise. I didn't write it down, but there is information available on where you can put those advertisements out there. And I don't have a problem. If you chose to do it internally, I'd be happy to talk with the lawyers for those school systems. I know all of them very well and see exactly what process they went through. And if they have any recommendations, if they would do it that way again, or if they'd prefer to go with a consultant, that type thing, I'll be happy to speak with them if you'd like.
Okay.
Do you know how long the position has to be posted? Or is it
It's
indefinite?
30 days, at
Is that
least
the
30
maximum?
days.
At least 30 days?
At least 30 days before the position is to be filled.
Okay.
We could start running it and keep it open while we're accepting
While you're-
applications and even doing interviews.
Even doing interviews, yes.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
It's, Cindy had, Ms. Thompson had a survey that we used, that we sent out to our stakeholders before, when we were going to be choosing someone. So that's something we might want to consider, what they think is important. I guess when they go to the polls, they know what they think is important, but some feedback from the community.
And that was as a recommend from ASB who did or did we do that separately from that?
I think maybe they did it.
It was something the board requested, and it was rolled into that AASB contract.
And I will say this about them. When Dr. Davis resigned, they had just started this service. Call it a service, you pay for it, but they had not been doing it very long. They do have, we might want to talk to some systems who have used them within the past year or so to see what their track record is now.
And also, there's probably a host of companies that have this type of service for executive talent. So, in addition to ASB.
Of course,
You'd want to use someone who was familiar with the school system.
Sure, sure.
But there are probably other consultants that offer something along those lines.
but there are constraints because we're bound by that, by the resolution that we did for the beginning of Mr. Massey's term. And of course, we did that before the election, not knowing who it would be or if someone would run against him. But we can't change that. And that really had an adverse effect on our candidate pool from outside the system, I thought. Because there's no changes that can be made, and that person would have to realize that at the end of this current term, which is, 2022?
Well, they would take over January 2023, but yeah.
Okay, at that time, they would have to run unless the legislature sees fit to change this to an appointed position before that time.
but I think the salary is better now, right? than
It
was.
is better.
So,
And we did make some allowances. Did we put anything about moving expenses? We didn't, did we? We talked about it, but we didn't do it.
I think we've positioned ourselves better to reach a broader grouping of people to come in and be our superintendent with the changes that have been made to the salary package and to the compensation package for the superintendent's job. So hopefully that will be a much better deal for bringing in better talent, good
Well,
talent.
and not to brag on our schools a little bit, but I think we're a much more advanced school system than we were 9 years ago. We didn't have the multitude of nationally certified teachers and blue ribbon schools and academic programs, and our Career Tech Center is now excelling. We've made leaps and bounds from 10 years ago, and I think we now are a very marketable system with an excellent reputation.
I agree.
Ms. Coe, I did not go back and look at your
Resolution.
resolution until you mentioned that, but it actually says, be it further resolved that in the event of a vacancy of office during the term of the next elected superintendent, the board has the right to negotiate the salary incentives, moving expenses, and travel expenses with the superintendent candidates and amend this resolution to reflect the terms agreed upon with the individual appointed to fill the superintendent vacancy.
Yes.
So I guess
Okay.
you did address it.
So we did.
So the question will become whether or not that's going to be enforceable, but.
But you'll check on that.
Yeah, you have some wiggle room that you did not have the last time.
Can Mr.
I
Massey
forgot you
reapply for his job? Can that reapply for his job? We may be able to negotiate around the Cyber Academy.
About had it with renegotiations, I think.
Cynthia, are you the one that would contact the AASB on our behalf
I'd
to
be
see
happy to.
if they would be willing to come up and address the board?
On the 11th?
The 11th would be ideal, since we already have a meeting scheduled, but if we need to call another board meeting earlier than that, obviously not before the end of the week, but earlier next week, we can always rearrange potentially and bring them up, but the 11th is a good start.
what were the written materials that we have? I thought,
They were from last time, that we don't have anything updated, but I wonder if they could just send us electronically some of their
Yeah,
updated
I mean, that
information
would-
ahead of time to review.
yeah, and if it's all in the written information, I mean, we can just read it. I mean, they don't have to come read it.
Well, that's true. I don't know what they may be able to answer questions that we can't glean from the information that they have. But, yeah, if we can get something in an email sent to us to look at, and then we can.
Okay. I'll get in touch with Ms. Smith. I think she's the one to speak with about that, Sally Smith.
The survey that was taken, was it helpful, or was it just sort of
I'm
not
sure
so?
we looked at it, yeah.
It changed things? I mean,
Oh, no. Nothing changed things.
okay, so was it worthwhile, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
I think it's worthwhile just because, people need to know we're listening to them. We were very,
Is that done by you?
Yes, that was part of it.
we had no wiggle room before. We had a candidate from Georgia who thought we could raise taxes. He thought we could pay him more money, all kind of expectations that we just couldn't deliver. And we were in the midst of a recession at that time, so we had no money. Even if we could have wiggled, Karen would not let us. So,
Well, I think because this is an elected position, I think it behooves us to engage with our stakeholders and make sure that we've given them an opportunity. I mean, technically, Matt works for the people of Madison County. That's who voted him in. I think we're obligated in some ways to create some way to allow them to have some input in how we move forward with, and letting us know what they think is important and what they value. It's part of our strategic plan as well to incorporate our stakeholders. So I think doing the survey, the nice thing about surveys from 10 years ago is now it's a whole lot easier. I mean, we've done several within our system. They're not expensive. They don't take long. This time of year, I think they will be difficult to get a lot of engagement, but if it's going to be posted for 30 days, we're going to be right before school goes back. Every mama in the world's going to be looking up to see whatever that list of, God knows you have to go to Walmart for, what, school supply.
Supplies.
Can y'all tell that makes me break out in hives? So I think it's actually not a bad time to be able to put that up on school websites and some other places. I think it's important to know what what people think and what they value while we're going forward.
Who comes up with the survey?
I think AASB did it before
That was the-
with
that was part of
us
the total
as part of-
package.
Part of the
That's
package.
part of the service here.
The questions from the survey are here. Now, that may be paraphrased, but I think
I'd like
we
to think-
have this survey. So the question I would have is, do you want to pay AASB to do it, or do you want to do this with your own staff and the Survey Monkey?
Well, my
Let's
first
just hear
thought
what
is,
they say.
I would,
yeah, I think we can hear what they say, but we also have a strategic plan that we put into place not long
Since
ago.
then.
And I think if we follow what's on that, and you could go as basic as giving a ranking of 1 to 5, is this still important to you? That also helps us in the fact that we're probably due to revamp or at least review that strategic plan. I think you could use that and do a, whatever you call those, 1 to 5. They have a word for them. I don't know what it is.
I agree.
And say, you know, is this still important? Is this still what you're looking for in a superintendent as a person who can carry this forward as your vision as, for the school system? I don't think it would take I don't think it has to be like a personality test or anything with some type of psychological background to be able to figure out exactly the right person.
And then,
You know, because I had a teenager tell me that they thought Mr. Massey was the GOAT. And I said, oh, really? What does that mean? He says, you know, the greatest of all times. So, you know, he did.
That's a bar to live up to right there.
I know. So we might need to hear from those people, what they want.
Sherry?
what are the qualifications, or?
It would be the same as
What
the elected.
elected position,
It's,
yeah.
you don't have to live in Madison County. You have to have at least 2 years
Administrative
experience
degree.
in
Yeah.
teaching. And
I think it's 5 years' experience.
it's not,
Hold an Alabama certificate in administration and supervision based upon the requirements established by the State Board of Education. Not less than 5 years of experience in public school work at the time they assume office. Proof submitted to the state superintendent of 3 years of successful educational experience as a teacher, principal, supervisor, superintendent, educational administrator, or instructor in school administration during the 5 years next preceding his appointment or election. Submits proof to the County Board of Education that he holds a degree from a recognized four-year college or university, and if such person is to be appointed by the county board, submits proof to the county board that he is knowledgeable in school administration. They're not required to be a resident of the district. I'll give you, you can have that if you want. It's just, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
Is that for elected or appointed?
That's
That's
all.
for, that's for both.
It's
Well,
at
that's
both.
elected.
It said appointed in there.
Appointed or
Yeah.
elected.
Yeah, it said
It's-
appointed
but
or
it's-
elected.
Okay.
But it would be appointed as well.
Any additional discussion or comments? I think that, and I want to reiterate to everybody that's not here and that's maybe watching on our streaming, you know, we've got a very strong central office leadership team, and I don't anticipate with Mr. Massey's departure and with whomever we choose as the interim and potentially as the appointed superintendent moving forward, that anything will change here. We have a great team that works here in the central office. They do a terrific job of supporting our schools, our teachers, our staff, our faculty, our administrators, and I don't see that changing. So I appreciate all the hard work that each and every one of you do that's sitting in the room, and I know that you will continue to work on behalf of the students of Madison County Schools from today until throughout this entire process. So that's a great thing that we have in place here at the Madison County School System. So thank you very much for your work and your efforts on behalf of our children.
Second that.
Unless there's any other discussion.
And don't be trying to poach any of our,
Yeah, I was going to say that, but I was going to bite my tongue.
I just went ahead and said it.
That was kind of forced on me. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not for sale. So unless there's any additional discussion on the process moving forward for the interim, and then any additional discussion on the, and there will be more discussion, I am sure, moving forward on the process to appoint the superintendent. I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn for the evening.
Motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn the special session for July 1st, 2019. Any discussion? I want to thank you all for coming in this evening. Matt, again, I want to thank you and congratulate you on your selection to be the president of the cyber school, and we wish you all the best of luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The meeting's adjourned.